Most protagonists want to save the world. Eren Yeager wanted to be free, and by the time he figured out what freedom actually required from him, he had already seen the end of the story. He had already seen himself become the thing he spent his childhood swearing he would destroy, and he chose it anyway. Today, we are telling the complete story of Eren Yeager, not as a hero, not as a villain, as the most tragic character in anime history who understood his own tragedy perfectly and walked into it with his eyes completely open. Here is the thing most recaps miss about Eren Yeager. He is not a character who gradually becomes a villain through corruption or trauma or the accumulation of bad choices. He is a character who sees the future. Specifically, through the Attack Titan's power of memory inheritance from future holders, Eren glimpses fragments of what is coming across the entire story, which means everything Eren does across 4 seasons is not simply a reaction to events as they happen. It is a man executing a plan he constructed from incomplete future memories, playing a role he already knows he is going to play, in a story whose ending he has already seen and chosen to allow. That is not a villain arc. That is something far more devastating. That is a person choosing their own tragedy. Let us follow it from the very beginning. The boy in Shiganshina, before the walls fall. Eren Yeager is 9 years old when the story begins, and he is already angry. Not the performative anger of a child having a bad day, something deeper and more structural. He looks at the walls surrounding humanity, walls that everyone around him accepts as protection, and feels something that the story eventually identifies precisely: claustrophobia of the soul. He does not have the language for it yet, he just knows that the cage, no matter how safe it is still a cage, and that a life lived inside a cage, even a comfortable one, is not the kind of life he wants. His mother Carla finds this quality in him exhausting and worrying. His father Grisha finds it familiar. Grisha Yeager is keeping secrets from his wife, from his children, from the village. He is an Eldian doctor who knows the truth about the world outside the walls, who carries knowledge that would make everything Eren feels about the cage make specific, devastating sense. He does not tell him, not ye, the day wall. Maria Falls Mikasa Ackerman is Eren's adopted sister. She came to live with them after Eren helped save her from human traffickers at age 9, killing her captors with a completeness and a calm that frightened her, and also, in some way, made her feel safer than she had since her parents died. Armin is Eren's best friend, the dreamer, the one with books about the outside world, who made the cage feel smaller to Eren by making the outside feel more real. They are 11 years old when the colossal titan appears over Wall Maria. The gate breaks. The smaller titans pour in. Eren and Mikasa and Hannes reach Carla, but she is trapped under the rubble of their collapsing house and cannot be freed in the time they have. Hannes carries the children away. They watch from his arms as a smiling titan lifts their mother and eats her. The specificity of that smile is what the story always comes back to, not just the violence, the smile, the absolute indifference of something that destroys without malice and without awareness of what it is destroying. Eren's anger, already structural before this moment, finds its shape. He is going to kill every titan on Earth, every single one, because the world that contains smiling titans that eat mothers is a world that needs to be destroyed and rebuilt. He does not know yet that he already has the power to try. Grisha's secret. Grisha Yeager visits Eren the night Wall Maria falls and takes him to the basement of their home. He injects Eren with a titan serum that knocks him unconscious. When Eren wakes up, his father is gone. His memories of the injection are unclear, and in the basement a locked door holds the journals that will eventually explain everything. Grisha gave Eren the Attack Titan and the Founding Titan through that injection. He gave his son the most historically significant powers in the world before Eren could understand what they were. He also transmitted something else: memory fragments from his own life, the full history of Marley and Eldia and the world outside the walls, knowledge that should have been overwhelming but instead settled somewhere deep in Eren's consciousness and changed the texture of everything he would feel and think and decide for the next 10 years. The Soldier, Training and the First Transformation. Eren joins the 104th Training Corps at 12, with Mikasa and Armin and the ensemble of characters who will define his years of becoming. He is not the most talented trainee. He is not the fastest or the most technically precise. He is, again, the one who does not stop. He fails and retries and fails again with a stubbornness that Mikasa watches with a combination of admiration and exhaustion. His first Titan transformation happens during the Battle of Trost, when Wall Rose is briefly breached. He is bitten in half by a Titan attempting to save Armin. He regenerates inside the Titan's stomach and emerges transformed, a 15-meter Titan he cannot fully control, that fights other Titans with a ferocity that looks less like combat and more like pure rage, given physical form. He plugs the breach in Trost's gate with a boulder, carrying it as a Titan while his own body is failing inside. He succeeds. He is 15 years old. The military brings him before the Ashira for judgment. Commander Erwin and Captain Levi take custody of him for the Survey Corps. Levi beats him in front of the court to demonstrate control over him. Eren does not fight back because he understands the political necessity of the demonstration, that capacity for strategic patience, for absorbing something painful because the outcome of resisting would be worse, is a quality the story is establishing early in someone we will eventually need it to mean something in. Female Titan and the limits of trust. Annie Leonhardt is revealed as the female Titan during the Survey Corps expedition. She captures Eren, is eventually stopped, and encases herself in crystal before she can be interrogated. But the arc's emotional center is not the reveal, it is Eren's response to the revelation. Annie was his friend. During training, she taught him hand-to-hand combat techniques. She was someone he knew, specifically and personally, and she was the enemy the entire time. Eren's response to this is not to generalize, not to become the kind of person who stops trusting people because someone he trusted betrayed him. He cries, he fights, he transforms. He does what needs doing, but something settles in him here, a recognition that the world he is trying to understand is more complicated than the clean anger of his childhood allowed for, that enemies have faces he knows, that knowing someone is not the same as understanding what they are. Reiner and Bertholdt, the second betrayal is worse than the first, because the relationship was deeper. Reiner Braun was the big brother of the 104th, the solid, dependable one. Bertholdt was quieter, more internal. Both were Titans sent from Marley with a specific mission. They tell Eren, in the middle of an afternoon, in what should be an ordinary moment, who they are, and then they attack. Eren's fury in this arc is the most purely personal we see him until the very end of the story. This is not the structural anger of a boy who grew up in a cage. This is the specific rage of someone who found people he could trust and was wrong again. He fights with an intensity that is about something beyond strategy. He loses. He is captured. He is freed. The war continues. But the accumulation is building. Every person who turns out to be something other than what they seemed adds to a weight that is slowly changing the texture of Eren's worldview, not making him paranoid, making him certain that the world cannot be navigated through trust and connection, that something larger and more structural needs to change. The basement and the world outside. What the journals say, the Survey Corps fights its way back to Shiganshina across the most costly engagement of the story to that point. Commander Erwin dies. Armin nearly dies, and is saved through the resurrection serum at the cost of Erwin, the 9 red scabbards precursor. The Titan spinals are destroyed, and the Wall Titans are freed from mind control, and they open the basement. Grisha's journals tell them everything. The outside world, Marley, Eldia, the 800-year history that the walls and the royal family's memory wipe concealed from them entirely. The people inside the walls were never the last of humanity. They were a political remnant of a conquered empire, hidden and isolated, and fed a false history by a king who chose peace over truth. The world they were always told was gone is out there, and it hates them, specifically, as a people, as Eldians. Eren looks at the ocean for the first time at the end of this arc. He digs his fingers into the sand and asks quietly if killing everyone on the other side of the water means they would finally be free. Nobody has a good answer. This question is not rhetorical. Eren is asking himself, the time skip and what happens in between. The 4-year gap between the ocean scene and the Marley infiltration arc is the most important period of Eren's story that we see the least of directly. During these 4 years, Eren sees the future. Through the Attack Titan's power, through contact with his father's memories, and through the specific mechanism that allows Attack Titan holders to perceive fragments of future holders' memories, Eren sees pieces of what is coming. He sees himself activating the rumbling. He sees himself dying. He sees the path that leads from the ocean beach to the end of the world, and he makes a choice. He chooses not to tell anyone. Not Mikasa, not Armin, not Hangi or Levi. He takes this knowledge inside himself and begins moving pieces into position for a plan that nobody around him is allowed to know the full shape of. This is the Eren of the final arcs, a person who is not reacting to the world anymore, a person who has seen the ending and is executing it, the plan and the cost. Marley infiltration. Eren infiltrates Marley independently. He makes contact with Yelena and the anti-Marleyan volunteers. He begins positioning pieces for the activation of the rumbling. He also sits across from Falco Grice, a young Marleyan warrior candidate, and listens to this child talk about his dreams with a patience and gentleness that is almost unbearable to watch if you know what Eren is planning. He knows what Falco is. He knows what Falco's world is going to become, and he sits there and listens with genuine care for this specific child's specific hope, and does not tell him any of it. This scene is the story's most precise statement about who Eren still is underneath everything he has become. The boy who helped injured people in dungeons, the person who cannot stop seeing the individual human being even while planning something that will destroy most of humanity. He has not lost his capacity to care. He has simply made a decision that his care does not change. The Paths and Ymir Fritz. Eren's contact with Zeke in the Paths reveals the full mechanism of the founding Titan. He meets Ymir Fritz, the original Titan, who has been serving in the dimensional space between all Eldian consciousness for 2,000 years because she loved the king who enslaved her. Eren is the first person to tell her she can stop, not as a manipulation, as a genuine recognition that she has been held in place by a love that was never reciprocated in the way she deserved, and that she has the choice to put it down. Ymir gives him the founding Titan's full power, and Eren activates the rumbling. The rumbling 100 million colossal Titans embedded in the walls for a century are released. They walk toward the continent. They do not stop. They do not slow down. They flatten everything in their path. Eren broadcasts his intention to the entire Eldian population directly through the founding Titans connection. He tells them he is going to kill everyone outside the walls, that this is his choice, that he is not asking for agreement. The image of Eren in this moment, standing in the coordinate space with the weight of what he is doing visible in every line of his posture, is the series' most precise portrait of someone who knows exactly what they are doing, knows exactly what it costs, and has decided to do it anyway. He is 23 years old. What he told Armin in the Paths. Eren meets Armin, alone, without Zeke, without the others. He tells Armin the truth, not all of it, not the full plan, but enough. He tells Armin that Mikasa is going to kill him, that this is how it ends, that the Eldian people will be seen as heroes who stop the rumbling because the friends he loves will stop it, that he is engineering his own death to give his people a chance at being accepted by the world that survives. He also tells Armin that he does not want to die, that he wishes there had been another way, that if he could have kept living, kept seeing his friends, kept being the person who watched fireworks with them in his Zuru, he would have chosen that. There was no other way, or there was not one he could see from where he was standing with what he knew, so he chose this. And he needed Armin to know that it was a choice, not destiny, not inevitability, a choice a person made and owned completely. The end. Mikasa kills Eren. The alliance of surviving Survey Corps members and Marleyan warriors reaches Eren during the rumbling. The fight to reach him is the most sustained combat sequence of the series. Eren fights them, not to win. He cannot be allowed to be stopped until enough of the world has been destroyed that the survivors see the Eldians who stopped him as heroes rather than perpetrators. He needs the rumbling to go far enough. He needs his death to come at the right moment. Armin transforms his colossal titan and destroys Eren's physical body, separating it from the founding titan control. Mikasa reaches him in the coordinate space. She kills him. She separates his head from the spine while holding him, and Eren, in that final moment, shows her the vision he has been protecting inside him for years. A field, himself and Mikasa, the life they could have had if the world had been different, the version of himself that could have been gentle, could have grown old, could have been someone she could have kept. He could not be that person. The world did not allow it. But he wanted her to know it was real, that it existed somewhere in him, even while he was burning the world. Mikasa holds his head after she kills him and cries. She says thank you and goodbye. So that is the complete story of Eren Yeager, a boy who grew up in a cage, who spent his entire life trying to get out, who saw the future and chose it, who engineered his own death so the people he loved could live in a world slightly less terrible than the one he grew up in, and died at 23, holding the vision of a life he never got to keep. Do you think Eren made the right choice? Or is there something he missed, some option he had that he either could not see or refused to take? Drop your answer in the comments. Subscribe for more character deep dives every day. I will see you in the next one.